Hey Doma fam, welcome back to another mobility class. Today's class we're focusing on the psoas muscle. We'll utilize a block for today's practice as we explore ways to release back pain and create greater range of motion. Meet us on your mat, let's get going. Welcome back. Let's begin today's practice on our backs. We'll begin in what's considered a constructive rest position, and so you'll bend your knees and place the soles of your feet flat to the floor. Let your head and neck relax to the floor, and just gently let gravity do the rest. Relax your shoulders away from your ears. And it's important that we spend a little bit of time here. This way we give the psoas muscle, which starts at T12, right around the end of your rib cage, T12, L1 kind of area, and then runs over a few different organs and runs over the top of the ball and socket of your hip joint. And so because this muscle is such an integral part of our movement and creating this kind of pendulum movement of the body, having some time for it to release and relax can be rather important. So a couple of things to note in this position. You're not trying to force anything on the ground. Eventually, as the psoas muscle starts to release and get a little more supple, then the spine and back will start to release more and more towards the floor. But we're not forcing anything at this point. So if there's a little bit of a gap, if there's a lot of bit of a gap in between your low back and the mat, no problem. Just let gravity do its work here. And you can almost notice instantly your body start to let go kind of in the center. And because the psoas really starts kind of deep set in the body, it comes to the surface right around the hip flexors. So right around your hips and pelvic bones, you can start to feel it a little bit more intensely. And so you might start to draw a little bit of attention there and notice if you feel anything. You might not notice anything at all, no problem. But just kind of bringing some awareness and some relaxation. So another kind of cool, important piece of information about the psoas is that it's connected to your breath. And so as you start to exhale fully, the body will relax because this kind of fight or flight motion is connected to the psoas muscle as well. So we'll just be here for a couple more moments. And we'll utilize this position throughout the next few exercises. So as often and as much as you can get into this position, before you do exercise or after you've had a long day behind the desk or something like that, this can be a really helpful position to just kind of let things let go. But from here, we'll start moving into a lower psoas opener and release. So you'll take your right leg and just slowly start to slide it out towards the edges of your mat. And just take it slow. Make sure that your left knee and hip stay in the same line. And you might be able to straighten your leg all the way out. And you'll just stay and hold. So we'll slowly progress to levels of intensity. In this moment, kind of finding that little bit of subtlety of stretch, you might just sort of begin to feel a little bit of sensation kind of running over the top of your hip flexor, through your hip flexor area. And the psoas can be so responsible for low back pain, ranges of motion when it comes to deepening backward bends. This is important for women because it runs over the top of our reproductive organs. So having a nice, long and supple psoas is super important. So there's a couple more moments here, and then we'll switch sides. Good, and then nice and slow, you'll slide your right heel back in line with your hip, plant your right foot, and then you can start to take it off to the left. So just nice and slow, start to slide your left heel out. No rush, no hurry. And just start to notice what might be there. What might also not be there might be different from the right to the left. I tend to carry a little more tension on the right side of my body, so left side tends to be a little more subtle for me. It might be different for you, though. And these are just small things that you can do at home, after a long day, or maybe before you head out on a run, or before you head into a big workout, to just create some space, some release, so that you can have a little more ease in your movement. Some nice deep breaths. Keep finding full, deep, kind of luxurious style breaths. Again, you want to make sure the right knee and hip still stay in one line. You don't want it to fall off to the side or anything. Just keep it nice and stable. Let's be here on the left side for just a couple more moments. Good. And then nice and slow, you'll slide your left heel in and plant the soles of your feet. Now we'll spend a little bit of time working on your upper psoas, so more towards where it originates from. You'll take both arms up and over your head, stacked over your shoulders, palms face one another. And just nice and slow, you'll start to take your arms overhead, just as far as they go. And no rush or hurry. Now you can kind of intensify this. You want to take your eyes, your nose, and look up and back as far as you can. And then notice your mouth, your jaw, even your tongue, and see if you can kind of release all of that happening in your mouth. Tongue falls away from the roof of your mouth. Maybe your lips and jaw softly part. And just breathe. Since the psoas is kind of starting at that center line of the body and then working its way down, it also connects into the upper body. So the trapezius muscle, that big diamond in the center of your back, kind of connects right above the psoas muscle. And so we want to spend a little time giving the upper body a little moment to release as well, so we get a full range of release. And just a few deep breaths here. What's really nice about these psoas releases is they're super doable. It's not overly complicated. It's something that we can easily add into our routine. I don't know about you, but I could easily stay here for a really long time. So just give it a shot. Especially if after you sit for long periods of time, your low back starts to bother you. There can be a lot of tension in the psoas muscle from this. Okay, let's take your time. Nice and slow. You'll bring your hands all the way back up, and then you can release them by your side slowly. So from here, we'll utilize our block, and we'll stay in the same position, but you'll take your block, and it has 3 heights, but I would start with the lowest one. So on the lowest setting on your block, you'll lift up your hips and place it underneath your sacrum, so right around your low back. And then you'll come back into this same shape. So we're going to roll through some similar motions that we've already done, but you'll keep your left knee in line with your hip in this sort of bridged position, and you'll slide your right heel out. So this will tend to intensify the stretch. Now I want to give you guys an option to kind of pay attention. Sometimes the toes want to pull off to the side. See if you can pull them back to the midline of your body and just notice the difference in sensation. I'm not saying that the tip off to the side of with your foot is wrong or bad, but just pay attention, because sometimes we get into the habit of doing it and just kind of like letting it go and don't really notice it. So just play a little bit with bringing it in line with your hip and a little bit active, not full flex style, but just toes up, and see how that shifts the stretch for you. You might notice that kind of pull down the center line of your body. You might notice a little chattiness in your back. Now, this might feel like more than enough sensation for you, but if you feel like you could do just a little bit more, then you can bring your feet back into the bridge position and level yourself up one more. I wouldn't necessarily recommend going to the max height of your block, especially not right away, because it can be rather intense. And you're just gonna slide your heel out till you find that kind of perfect level of intensity for you. Because sometimes higher is not necessarily better, lower is not necessarily better, just is better if it's better for you. All right, and then we'll come back to the top. Right knee pulls in, plant your right foot, and then you'll go for the left. And for the sake of keeping Brian and I even, I'm gonna drop us back down to the lower and then slide out through your left leg. Again, just kind of notice if your toes rock off towards the left at all. See if you can relax and breathe. Good, and you might level up if you feel like you got the space to. And again, just creating some length through your lower psoas muscle. And all the work that we're doing today is really working on psoas major. We have psoas minor and psoas major, and most of the work we're doing today affects psoas major, and it's the one that we feel the most, because psoas minor is just so low, it's hard to work towards. Good, so bring your left foot in, lift your hips to release the block out from underneath you, and then very slowly we're gonna make our way back into our constructive rest position for just a couple of breaths to kind of let that settle. Just see if you notice any differences, any shifts. See if you can pay attention to your body in a way that's kind of curious rather than like, ooh, bad, good. Just notice what's there. Try not to do too much just yet. Not even judge. And then we'll make our way up to a kneeling position. So whatever way feels the most accessible for you. Roll off to the side. And then bring myself up into a seat. Okay. So from here, we're going to come into a stacked lunge. Right foot comes forward. Be really particular with yourself. Knee over heel and hip over knee. Top of your foot touches the floor. From here, you'll place your hands on your hips. Take a nice big breath in to lift your chest. And then listen up. On your exhale, you push your hips a little bit forward. At the same time, you round your chin towards your chest. So a little bit hips forward. A lot of it chin to chest. And you can really start to feel this kind of stretch kind of come down through your hip flexor. You might notice a little bit of tension through your spine, the muscular tension. And just breathe. A couple of moments here. Not a whole lot of force. Just find some space. Get another really good one to do before you hit a workout or after a long day. Okay, the come out is important. Slowly. Peel your chin away from your chest. Because you were just putting a little bit of tension, it can sometimes come up to bite you. So don't rush your way out of this. Okay, let's switch sides. Left foot comes up. Be particular with your stance. Knee over heel, hip over knee, hands on your hips with a breath in, stretch up. And then on your exhale, hips a little bit forward, especially for the right, and then chin to your chest. Whew. This side is my very chatty side. I think we all have a side that's a little more chatty than the others. And this is where some of that magic starts to happen. A few more deep breaths. All right, nice and slow. Let's back our way out. Chin off your chest, slow with your breath. Keep breathing. And then you can sit back onto your heels. Okay, you guys, that's it. Those are the 5 best, I think, psoas releases. So utilize them whenever you feel like you have time, and can't wait to see you soon.